Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and a reviewer who should have retired by now. You have been warned. This is Random Review.
Before we begin, thank you very much to Sinistar Alpha for joining the Patreon campaign. I feel like that's my shattered glass version out there somewhere. But thank you very much for the support over on patreon.com/TJOmega. You pitched in at the highest level, which does mean you get a review request. If you want to DM me over on Patreon for that, feel free to. And again, thank you very much for doing so. Anyone out there who wants to support at that level, you are open to the same. It's your choice. But that said, I need to do this review because I feel like this is one of those toys that's going to need as many opinions out there as possible because it's a very oddball one. This is the brand new Legacy Deluxe Optimus Prime, and it is exceptionally G1 centric because this toy is specifically designed to emulate the original Optimus Prime toy. Now, the weird part about this is because you think to yourself, we just got Missing Link, and this very much feels like we have Missing Link at home. And you're right. But the odd thing about that is two different teams are in charge of these things, and they both hit on the idea at the same time of doing an updated, more articulated version of the original Optimus Prime toy for the 40th anniversary. One happened to be a premium team, the other one happened to be a retail team. So instead we have this interesting little mix. So, because this one is so oddball, and because it's last wave and might be hard for some to get a hold of, that means aftermarket might be a mess on this one. Let's go over all the details so you know what you're getting into. So the cab is pretty faithfully recreated. It's the traditional box cab done in bright red. You do have a darker blue at the back than you would normally be used to for Optimus Prime because, again, emulating the original G1 toy. You can see the back is currently loaded with accessories because they give you no shortage of 5mm ports in the back in order to store things. Imagine that, having a truck that is actually used for storage and transport. Funny. As you can see there, the trailer hitch is 5mm. If you can find an Optimus Prime toy that actually fits on that peg, be my guest. I heard the Earthrise version actually does fit this peg. Might need a bit of an adapter for that. Don't know how well you're going to do, but I'm sure there's something out there that'll fit. And besides that, you have 4 more ports on here that you can do whatever you really want with as far as upgrading him or just, keeping parts back there. But as you can see, yeah, it's done up pretty well. The rims are an individually molded gray plastic. The tires themselves are rubberized. So that does mean the toy does have a very good roll to it. But that also means that the plastic around it might be prone to damage over the long term. So my suggestion would be make sure that if you have this guy in display, or more importantly, if you have him in storage, maybe make sure the tires aren't directly connecting to any of your other figures. On display, just make sure everyone has a little bit of distance on a, inside a storage bin or something. Put them in a plastic bag first. Just make sure, just in case. They might have fixed it, they might not have, but I know that recent figures like Beachcomber have had that issue with the rubberized plastic actually melting the ABS or damaging paint on other toys. Just to be safe, just make sure you mind that. Beyond that, see, we do have a very detailed silver paint job going on the front. The headlights, the silver striping, the grille and bumper are all done up. This is what I say to anybody who out there who has ever told me they can't paint a yellow stripe down the side of Ironhide because it crosses so many panels. They can't get a consistent line deco. There you go. It is entirely possible. Just do Ironhide right. Jeez. Please. You do see translucent plastic going all over the inside as well. You see the windows and such. But if we open, you'll notice that the clear plastic is an individual piece that is pegged in. And I do not have to worry in the least about translucent plastic on this guy as a result. I love that. You'll also note, yes, the front does come down just like the original Optimus Prime, though there is no room for Diaclone pilots. There is a translucent blue matrix, on the other hand. Not gonna lie, not entirely sure why it's just an unpainted translucent blue outside of just the core took priority. I don't know. I think I would have rather the gray plastic have that mold, but whatever. You get a matrix, and then yeah, so that's pretty much your vehicle mode. Let's take him to robot mode, and yeah, because this guy is G1 inspired, don't expect a whole lot on the transformation level. There's two little notches right here at the back of what will be Optimus Prime's elbow that hold the legs into place. So go ahead and make sure that is disconnected, dislodged. Well, actually, I'm going to have to unclip the legs first before it will allow me to do that. So bring those down and then just flip the feet forward. Again, this is looking very, very traditional so far. And yeah, that's going to continue. Go ahead and pull the sides out like so. Rotate those shoulders around. The new aspect of the transformation comes in how the forearms work, because of course, unlike the original G1 toy, this one actually has full transformation on the arms, no part forming. That said, this is the scariest part of the transformation. So in order to transform this, we have to push this downward like so. And you're going to notice all that is connected by this pretty thin piece, and it bends. It bends a lot. Now, it does appear to be molded from the palm plastic, which is more durable to such things, but this might be a point of breakage if you are not careful. So my suggestion here, just to make sure nothing snaps here, when you've got it like this, make sure you are squeezing down on these pieces just to make sure nothing pops out here. And then make sure your thumb is very close to the base here. That way the force that you're putting goes straight into the hinge itself and doesn't flex this piece. So there's my recommendation if you want to be very careful about it. But once you've got that done, rotate the hand out and close it back up. Closing not nearly as scary as opening. I will also mention that the first time you do this, it might actually be a little bit stiffer. So you do need to be a little bit more careful the first time especially. But after you've done it once or twice, it does get a little bit more forgiving. It does feel a little bit better. But yeah, that's your new aspect of transformation to him. Beyond that, rotate the back down. That is also new to this version of the toy. Go ahead and flip the head up like so. Close up the back. Make sure that all the tabs and panels are in place. You can see this big thing has to fit into a gap here, so make sure that's aligned. That's pretty much it. He does transform essentially like the original Optimus Prime does. No real surprises other than a few tricks to improve him as far as just modern sensibility goes, but it's a nostalgic feel, which is the whole idea behind this. This is the Optimus Prime toy you give to someone who knows and loves the original figure, but wants to capture it again without having to spend a ridiculous amount. You will recall the last time they reissued just the cab of Optimus Prime, $50. Little much. So 25 and it's more articulated. Okay, that's a good deal. That's fine. Now you will wonder that for that 25, how much is it really going to feel like the original? Well, I will admit it is a good bit smaller. I neglected to bring a G1 Optimus Prime with me today for this review. Fortunately, we do have a G1 Ultra Magnus body just lying around in the store somewhere. So there is your size comparison. He is notably smaller than the original Optimus Prime toy. While it feels very much the same, clearly there are some pretty large differences here. So be aware of that. You're not getting a perfect replica. And also, if you got the missing link, I'll tell you these two feel so different from each other. you can definitely feel where the missing link is way more expensive and why it is more expensive. This really does feel like, this really does feel like not the Wish version, because it still feels fine, but it's definitely not the same experience. But it is very similar in the visuals. I'll go ahead and show you the head sculpt, which very much looks like the original toy, complete with the yellow eyes. Looking very traditional, very retro. There is light piping to this toy. However, the yellow plastic is very dense, so the translucent element of it is very minimal. It doesn't really reflect the eyes as much as I would personally want. I believe that might even be because they are painted over. They look like it's painted over, but it's so solid it's hard to tell. Point being, light piping don't work too well unless you have the light directly on top of his head. So keep that in mind. Deco-wise, we're very much looking at the same that we got in the vehicle mode. The helmet does have the silver and the on the top crest and the mouthpiece. The stripes are about where they're supposed to be for the original G1 toy. Yeah, and then nothing really going on here. Now, what's interesting is they are sculpted just like the new missing link toy, to actually have the sticker detail as molded detail, but they are unpainted. I wouldn't be surprised if this didn't come out later with a better painted version. Until then, great fodder for customizers. Absolutely great. Yeah, and then, the part I love, it's clean. It is, because it's G1 engineering, really. Like, what do you expect? What do you expect? That G1 engineering, by the way, is how they have the budget for the tires. That is actually a more expensive process to actually make sure the tires are rubberized. So if you appreciate the ability to roll, then that is what to thank for it. Now, I want to talk accessories here, and this is going to be a little bit interesting because the accessories, well, let's start with this. It does include his now traditional Energon axe. Obviously, the original G1 toy did not include this, but it's always great when they pack it in now. So that just fits over his hand like so, like a lot of the modern Energon axe toys. Yeah, and that's just a pretty effective way of doing his melee weapon of choice. Not too bad. It's the guns that are fascinating to me. So he's got his traditional ion rifle. And yeah, it's got the correct look to it. It's got the vent thing in the back, whatever that is. And yeah, it's a pretty faithful representation to the original version. Both of them are. You get two. And for those who aren't really paying attention to the detail, one has a thick barrel, one has a thin barrel. The original G1 Optimus Prime came with either or. It was kind of a toss-up which one you actually got. So, kind of cool that they acknowledge that and give you both versions of the rifle, so you have whichever one you like the best. Based on the G1, I tend to like the thick barrel a little bit better, but that is just me. So yeah, it's a really cool little thing to include. It's very noteworthy. Also to note, there isn't any black plastic on the toy outside those guns. They are painted completely. I'm not sure what plastic color lies underneath them, but treat them a little bit more tenderly because you don't want it to chip and then start revealing whatever color they're cast in. So with that out of the way, it's time for the articulation rundown. So he does have the modern articulation, which is what you would expect. The ball-jointed head gives him some little nuance poses, but left and right is 360 degrees. That's the important one. Shoulders, universal. Plenty of natural motion there. You can also use the transformation hinge to give him a little bit of backward butterfly motion as well. Nice when that's a little thing to include. Let's see, bicep rotation, 360 degrees. Elbows, 90 degree. No wrist rotation, wouldn't expect it given how he transforms. The pelvis skirt does come up, and so do the wheels on the sides. So this gives you a much wider range of articulation in the hips, which are universally jointed. So great to see that that is intact. Thigh swivel works 360 degrees. Knee bends to 90 degrees. and then you have the ankle tilt. And you can move the toes downward like you did in vehicle mode 2, should you need them. But yeah, this is basically like the modern standard range of articulation. So kind of cool to see on a G1 figure. But again, it's not the most amazing thing. Geez, I even forgot the waist joint. How did I forget the waist joint? So, but still, if you can't do the Missing Link figure, and I understand why. Missing Link is a pretty expensive thing for people to be picking up. This is a great alternative. You know, it's one of those toys that's going with a specific goal in mind, and because that goal is fairly doable, the toy isn't doing anything wrong. It feels like the original G1 Optimus Prime toy. The look is spot on. Like the new features like paint and articulation help it so much more than the original G1 toy, and it scratches that itch without having to drop a lot of money on the Missing Link import. All around, yeah, it's doing everything it's supposed to do, and honestly, I can't really knock it for anything. Yeah, the transformation is simple, but it's supposed to be the G1 Optimus transformation, and it is. So I can't fault it. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. And for that, I have to give this toy a glowing opinion. It set out a goal, it met it, and it's a fun figure in general that hits a nice nostalgic itch. So I think it's absolutely worth the pickup if you happen to come across it. Maybe not so much if you're paying for the aftermarket. That one's up to you, but that is why we do all these reviews, so you can decide for yourself. With that, I will thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you next time.
Analysis complete. Adapting translators to local language.
Are you out there?